And now let me turn to Senator Boozman and ask him, if he will, to introduce Mr. Day for us.
Well, thank you, Senator Carper, and we appreciate yours and Senator Capito's leadership and the great example that you set in working together and trying to find common ground for this really so very important committee. I have the opportunity to introduce Brian Day. Thank you, Brian, for joining us today, and he's going to discuss the important role the Economic Development Administration has played in the Little Rock Port Authority's operations and expansion. Brian has been involved with state and local government for over 35 years and been the executive director of the Little Rock Port Authority since 2014. Under his leadership, the port has attracted industry from around the world, with 50 businesses now calling the port home. Together, these businesses employ around 10,000 people and contribute about $500 million annually to the region. Brian and Little Rock Port Authority have leveraged EDA dollars as well as anyone, and I look forward to hearing his expertise on why the EDA is important to so many communities like Little Rock, Arkansas. It's certainly been a pleasure working with Brian for many years, and we appreciate all of his efforts for the great state of Arkansas. Thank you, Brian, for being here.
Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today to discuss the reauthorization of the Economic Development Administration. My name is Brian Day, and I'm the Executive Director of the Little Rock Port Authority. The Port of Little Rock is Arkansas's largest public port and industrial park, and its sole purpose is to create jobs for Central Arkansas. As you heard, the Port of Little Rock is home to 50 businesses from across America and around the world. These businesses employ about 10,000 people and contribute $500 million a year to the local economy. As the Little Rock Port Authority works to attract industry and create jobs, we cannot do it alone. Over the last 20 years, we have been the recipient of a number of EDA grants through the Public Works Economic Adjustment Assistance Grant Program. I would like to share a few examples. In 2002, the Little Rock Port Authority received $2 million from the EDA to build a dock on our Slackwater Harbor. In 2005, the Little Rock Port Authority received $1.5 million from the EDA to build 2 warehouses at the Slackwater Harbor. The dock and the warehouse investments have created hundreds of opportunities to move commodities and attract new industry to the Inland River system. In 2007, the Little Rock Port Authority received $1.5 million from the EDA to build additional rail infrastructure to support Wellspun, an Indian-owned gas and oil pipe company. This company has invested over $400 million into their facility and currently employs 1,000 people. In 2019, Little Rock Port Authority received $2 million to assist with the development of road and the extension of utilities. This infrastructure investment allowed Amazon to locate at the port, where they built a 4 million square foot distribution facility at a cost of approximately $500 million. Today, that facility employs 3,000 people. In 2022, the Little Rock Port Authority received $3 million from the EDA to extend rail infrastructure to support Trex, a manufacturer of composite lumber. When Trex is fully operational, they will have invested over $400 million into their facility and will employ over 500 people. The EDA has provided $13 million in grants to the Little Rock Port Authority over the past 20 years, and while that's not a lot of money, this investment has directly resulted in over $2.5 billion in capital investment and the creation of over 5,000 jobs. I can think of no better return on an investment than what we've accomplished with the help from the EDA. I do hope the committee recommends the continuation of funding for this program. It has helped communities across the nation achieve objectives that they could not have done otherwise. However, as you consider reauthorization, I would like to ask that you take the following into consideration. 1, the Economic Development Administration was created to help develop local economies by generating new employment and stimulating industrial and commercial development. This is an effective federal program that creates lasting benefits for local communities. I would encourage the committee to remain focused on the original intent of the program. The EDA has a proven track record that has worked well and continues to work well in communities across the country. 2, local communities have a better understanding of their respective needs and know what works best for them within their specific economic development arena. EDA grant programming should remain flexible enough to give local communities the ability to design and implement projects that are best suited for those individual environments. Oftentimes, grant requirements from the agency have an adverse impact on a community's ability to apply for and manage the funds. Having the flexibility to use EDA funds with less stringent parameters will result in greater benefits to the local community. 3, the EDA grant process should remain simple. Smaller and rural communities often do not have the capacity to develop a grant application, complete the permitting, meet the timelines, and implement the program mandates established within the grant. Simplification of the process and modification of the guidelines will have a positive impact on communities and their ability to utilize these funds. Finally, the EDA should explore redefining the grant program to allow communities the ability to design and build basic infrastructure to prepare those communities for future economic development growth. Many of the grants are tied into specific job creation requirements, and this often prohibits a local community from meeting their specific future economic development needs. Allowing the EDA to invest in creating shovel-ready sites would be a game changer for our communities and greatly enhance their ability to attract jobs to the arena. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to appear before you. I wholeheartedly support the reauthorization of the Economic Development Administration. The Little Rock Port Authority could not have accomplished what we have over the past 20 years without help from the EDA. That is a given. I've shared with you some of my thoughts on changes that I believe would be beneficial to all of our communities of all sizes. I hope you will give them consideration. Thank you again for the opportunity to appear before you.
Mr. Day, as you outlined in your testimony, the Little Rock Port Authority has had great success in partnership with EDA with acquiring $13 million in grant funding and leveraging to tremendous economic development. Can you talk about the decisions that go into applying for EDA funding for the Little Rock Port and your experiences working with EDA in executing both the application process and the project delivery?
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for always supporting the Port of Little Rock and Central Arkansas. We're grateful for that. So in terms of working with the EDA, we have a great relationship with the EDA. Your staff, the EDA staff, does a remarkable job working with communities. I have no qualms with that. They're responsive and eager to help us, and the folks we work with on a daily, weekly basis are really good. When we work with EDA grants through the port, and I'm mainly talking about kind of the public works infrastructure investment, they are all tied into specific job creation. And that is a time-consuming. Sometimes you have to wait till you get a prospect that announces, and then you contact the EDA and say, we've got this prospect that's going to bring 500 jobs and invest $600. Can we apply for infrastructure, or can we apply for road extension assistance? And as you've heard today in this capacity conversation, when a prospect comes to a community, any community in America, they're not looking to locate at the community. They're looking for reasons to not locate at the community. And if we tell them that it's going to take 6 to 12 to 18 months to get the site ready, then that's a reason they might choose to go elsewhere. And we're no longer just competing with our neighbors, we're competing with the world. When we saw with the pandemic and the supply chain challenges, there's a lot of interest in reinvesting in manufacturing and distribution. So in working with EDA and how we decide to do it, when this prospect comes and they finally choose us, we've convinced them that we can deliver the site within 12 to 18 months with all the infrastructure, the roads. We work with the state and the county and the local governments, and we bring EDA into the equation kind of as part of that ongoing conversation, and that we tell them, here's what we can bring, here's what we need, and they work with it. So you've heard, the committee's heard today that it would be nice to have be able to do some preliminary work, some advanced work, and that's what I hope that we'll be able to do in the future. Good.
Arkansas is a small state. We all kind of know each other. We work together. As you know, many rural communities in Arkansas, similar to rural communities across the United States, are losing businesses, employment opportunities, and population. 53% of the counties in America lost population in the last census. Many of these areas have benefited from programs that target rural economic development, such as investment from the EDA. The EDA is such a valuable resource for so many people who need this help. However, most of these communities are at a disadvantage when applying for any grant funding because they lack the bandwidth or expertise to submit a, quote, top application. Can you talk about the importance of keeping this process as simple as possible? And I hope that's the theme of today, in addition to being focused on the intent of the program.
Yes, sir. Thank you. A good question. As I mentioned in my comments, we have to keep the program simple. I will tell you, we get a lot of grants from different federal agencies, and the EDA is some of they're easier to work with than others. But when you go into a small rural community and you have to get all the engineering done, the permitting, the cost analysis, the benefit, then you have to implement the mandates with the program that might be apprenticeships or resiliency or equity, and all of those things are important, but a small community struggles with that. You've heard today from all of my colleagues, the match is burdensome, and if it's $1 million project and it's a 20% match, $200,000 is hard for a small community to get. So as you look to reauthorize, if you can make it simpler, if you could, I heard someone talk about kind of a formula-based incentive instead of competitive. That might be a good approach for certain communities. But we do know, and we've seen success in rural Arkansas, if you have an available property, an available building, a prospect will locate there. But for a community to have to do all the heavy lifting on the front end, to manage the grant, and then even after the fact, once you build it, you're not done with the management of the grant. You have to report annually and keep coming back. That does create challenges for a community that has a volunteer city council or volunteer quorum court that has a staff of 4 or 5 people. It is a challenge, so simple is better.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.